And welcome back to News Talk, everyone. A three-day conference on hunger and poverty begins here in Washington tomorrow. We want to talk about the issue, and joining us now to discuss it, Lindsay Coates, Vice President for External Communication at the group InterAction. Good to see you. Thanks very much for coming in.
I'm very glad to be here.
Folks from all around the country, you've got offices in half the states in the Union are coming to town and give you the opportunity to refocus on the issue of hunger across the globe. What are the areas that really set off the alarm bells? What parts of the globe are we seeing folks going without the basics on the most urgent level?
Well, the current crises that are facing all of us right now, in terms of food prices, in terms of energy prices, are having the greatest impact on the most vulnerable populations. Most of those people are in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's a very, we think our lives are difficult here, but all of us are born with the same needs. We're just born into different circumstances. And even in a wealthy country like the United States, there's 37 million poor people. So our members work both in the States and around the globe to alleviate real poverty and real suffering that's going on.
What sorts of programs are you focusing on right now to try to get help where it's most needed?
Well, our members are very interested in aligning their work with an international initiative called the Millennium Development Goals. In 2000, all of the world's leading countries and all of the poor countries got together and identified the things that needed to happen to cut global poverty in half. So we're talking about things like educating girls, we're talking about vaccinating children, we're talking about reducing maternal mortality, we're talking about protecting our environment. So there's a broad range of goals that the world has agreed on that are important to see that we all live in fair, humane circumstances.
You mentioned sub-Saharan Africa. I know there are other places too, though, where the need is desperate and where the situations are troublesome. What are some of the other areas?
Oh, it's there are persistent problems in Latin America. Even countries which have made a great deal of progress, like Korea, still have pockets of people who are very poor. There's a wide gap for individuals who live in China between those in urban areas and those who live in rural settings. And our members work across the globe, mostly in small communities. What's exciting about what our members do is it's people-to-people work, building individual human capacity to address their own problems and building lasting solutions to global poverty.
Sometimes nations have so little in terms of infrastructure and resources that the hunger results from just a poverty of resource. In other situations, you have inept and corrupt leadership, where a country might be sitting on vast wealth of different types, and they're so hard-hearted or inept that their people are going hungry for that reason.
You're thinking of Burma.
Well, give us a sense of, how many people are in each camp and how we then react, particularly when a country's not poor, it's just either mean or stupid.
Well, that's a very complex political question that you've asked, but it's very important to recognize the positive things that are going on moving forward. We are celebrating the Millennium Development Goals this week, and we're celebrating the midpoint toward achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. And what countries agreed to do by signing on to the Millennium Development Goals was to improve their governance. Rich countries agreed to give more money, to make a greater commitment. But poor countries also agreed to better governance, better transparency, better taking care of their citizens. So I think there's a shift in global norms. I think the expectations of citizens, even in countries that are not well off, have really shifted. A powerful example of that was the earthquake in China, where citizens felt like they could demand of their government that they should have treated them better with regard to school facilities for their children. I don't think you would have seen that 20 years ago. And
that was quite a striking moment, because it was the act of people talking back, of objecting publicly and shaming their public officials in a culture where really none of that has been a feature.
And a lot of the work our members do builds on the capacity of what we in our world like to call civil society, which is the whole structure that we're so accustomed to in this country of civic groups and schools and parents and people who have the capacity and the passion to speak up to their government. And part of the work that our members do is about building that civil society, building that capacity in country so that citizens really have the power and the confidence and the belief to speak for themselves and to move themselves out of poverty.
Are you worried that the global financial slowdown will cause governments to have less money to donate to these causes and individuals to feel, you know what, I'm going to wait 3 months, 6 months until I feel as though my checking account's a little more flush, and then I'll write that check?
Well, it would be, I wouldn't be honest if I said our community was not concerned about that. But I think that it's even more important. We need to remember that we are among the wealthiest people on earth. And even though we don't feel quite so rich today, we still have so much more. I was recently in Ghana, Accra, in Accra in Ghana, and people's living standards are, I wish every American could travel to the developing world. And one of the great things that's going on right now is many Americans do. Many Americans volunteer. Many Americans give not only their money, but they give their time. And once you see how others live, you appreciate how much we have here. And I think it really renews your sense of how important it is.
We've got about a minute left. What do you hope comes out of the conference?
I hope that our community is revitalized. It's very difficult sometimes to maintain the energy that's needed to do this very important work, but I think we have a lot to celebrate in terms of progress against poverty. I would encourage anyone who is interested in our work to go to www.InterAction, InterAction.org. Click on Progress Against Poverty, and you'll see the kind of work and kind of events that we're doing. I think we'll be re-energized by talking about all the things we've accomplished.
InterAction, one word, InterAction.org.
Correct.
Good luck with the event. Thanks for coming in. It's good to know that people are still out there. And of course we know that they are, but important that you and the groups that are in your coalition are fighting the fight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lindsay Coates is Vice President at InterAction. Their conference begins tomorrow, runs the rest of the week here in Washington. Good to see you. Thanks again for coming in. We'll take a break. We'll check in with Beverly Kirk after the break. She's standing by with a preview of Live Tonight.